Hey, did you I'm sorry. I have not. You have to go into. Hey, did you I have not.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Just a few minutes.
Oh, okay.
All right. I don't mind logging in, just make sure that
Are we rolling?
we are rolling.
Good evening. Welcome to the Tuesday, October 15th, 2024 Board of Supervisors meeting. This meeting is now called to order. Mr. Suter, will you please conduct a roll of the board?
Yes, Supervisor McDaniel.
Here.
Supervisor Lyons.
Here.
Supervisor Day.
Here.
Supervisor Lewis is absent, and it's Supervisor or Chair Ayers.
Yes, here. We will now offer an invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Those attending are not required to participate, but if you'd like to join us, please stand.
Lord, as we gather here this afternoon, I pray for those who are hurting from the devastation of Hurricane Helene. As bad as it may seem, the loss of life and property, we see Americans coming together to the call to help one another. This is our nation, one nation under God. I pray that you will bless each and every person that is responding there to give assistance. And now I ask that you will guide and direct us in all that we do. Forgive us our many sins. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will hold citizens' comments near the beginning of the meeting. We will do our best to take citizen comment remotely. There are two options for citizens to offer comment. To join by telephone, you may dial into one of the numbers listed on the county website. Webinar ID and password are there for your convenience. Citizens wishing to simply view the meeting live or after the fact can do so on the Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors YouTube channel, also available on the county website. If you wish to make a citizen comment as a Zoom meeting participant, you will use the raise your hand feature. You can press the raise hand button on the bottom of your Zoom window or press *9 if you are calling in by telephone. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair, if it's okay with you, I'd like to ask that we shift item 13 to the second item on the regular agenda after the Community Services Board report, so that Chief Ramsey can finish in time to get out to the Fire and Rescue Association meeting.
That's fine. Recognitions and presentations. National Fire Prevention Week proclamation.
Proclamation expressing the appreciation of the Board of Supervisors of Rockbridge County, the local fire departments and firefighters. Whereas the President of the United States traditionally designates the week in which the date of October 9th falls as National Fire Prevention Week. And whereas the men and women volunteer and career personnel of the fire rescue departments serving Rockbridge County, the city of Lexington, and the city of Buena Vista provide a vital public service by responding to medical emergencies, motor vehicle crashes, fires, hazardous materials incidents, technical and water rescue needs of our residents and visitors. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand that firefighting is one of the most hazardous professions, requiring physical strength, determination, and courage. And whereas safety of our citizens is a primary goal of local, state, and federal government, And whereas firefighters are often the first to arrive upon the scene of emergencies and disasters by the nature or man-made to provide immediate and often life-saving assistance. And whereas firefighters participate in numerous hours of rigorous training and continuing education in order to enhance their life and property-saving skills. And whereas our firefighters continue to demonstrate a high level of commitment and dedication to their communities and fellow citizens. Now, therefore, we, the Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors, recognize the week of October 6th through 12th, 2024 as National Fire Prevention Week and encourage all of our residents to join in celebration the dedication of our local fire departments and firefighters, both past and present, along with their families whose support enables them to serve our community. Additionally, throughout the entire month of October, we urge everyone to continue to honor their commitment and service, adopted this 15th day of October, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Lyons,
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I would like to note that obviously we're a week behind on this. It kind of snuck up on us this year. This is the latest we will ever have. The first board meeting of the month is on the 15th, and it just got a little ahead of us. So apologize for that.
Chief Ramsey, we want to say thank you to you and all of our firefighters in our county. We will now welcome citizen comments. When your name is called, please address the board at the podium stating your first and last name and magisterial district. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. There's a timer on the table for your convenience. Is there anyone signed up?
Yes, ma'am. Bill Russell.
Okay, Mr. Russell.
Good evening, Chairwoman and members of the board. I wanted to come in and speak about restoration of the library funding. I am a great fan of libraries. I see the work it does in this county. I've spent a lot of time in the one down here doing some research. I see people coming in tutoring kids in there. I see people walking down from retirement homes to come in there. I see people who don't have resources for computers and other things coming in and using those facilities, and the remote facilities around the county also. The trucks, the other library locations, I think all serve a wonderful purpose. And I'm going to say that I have a lot of experience going into towns around the country. I work with FEMA and the Disaster Assistance Division, and I would frequently see in places where services had been knocked out, one of the few places that people could go in a community to keep in touch was their local library. And I think we forget that function is still there, and it serves a continuity of community for communities out of touch for a variety of reasons. And I hope you consider restoration of that budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
No one else has signed up.
Okay. Anyone online, Mr. Suter?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the meeting room that would like to say a word? All right. Did everyone have time to review the draft minutes of the September 23rd, 2024 minutes?
Move to approve.
All right, Mr. Lyons?
Second.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Day? And I abstain. Consideration of school appropriation resolution. Mr. Harrison?
Yes, before you is a resolution for the school division requesting appropriation of additional funds for Fund 50 in the amount of $597,157,000 in new grants. $16,597 is state CTE funds, which is career and technical education. $136,720 is in federal special education funds, and $425,840 is in federal 21st century after school program funds.
Gentlemen, questions or comments? Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Mr. Day?
Second.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
And I vote yes. County Financial Report and Appropriation Resolution.
Yes, we're requesting approval of resolution authorizing the payment of bills and additional appropriations. The total amount of bills this period is $1,238,584.41. There is nothing out of the ordinary in this bills list. Included and posted is the revenue and expense reports through September 30th, 2024. Year-to-date revenues total $13,159,780. Total expenditures amount to $18,740,764, or a difference of $5,580,984. 25% of fiscal year has passed. Year-to-date sales tax revenues is at $1,151,926, or 26% of the estimated budget. Mills tax is at $878,407 at 26% of the estimated budget. Lodging taxes is at $439,373, or 24% of estimated budget. And emissions tax revenue is at $167,077, or 48% of the estimated budget. And there was included is the spreadsheet showing year-over-year comparisons.
Thank you. Gentlemen, any other thing, any comments or questions before we go on?
Move to approve.
Okay, Mr. Lyons, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day? Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gonna move item 13. Yeah.
I think we do it after 8.
Okay.
We are Rockbridge Area Community Service Review.
I think Ms. Shaw is on an even tighter schedule, I think, this evening than Nathan. Just a quick overview. Rockbridge Area Community Services Board was established all the way back in 1982 and serves Rockbridge County, Bath counties, and the cities of Lexington and Buena Vista. Its mission is to promote health and wellness through the provision of behavioral health, substance use, developmental and prevention services. And I provided you with a link to their site online, and the general public can reach it there as well. And Executive Director Kim Shaw was here with us this evening. And I will note that prior to the meeting, she did give each one of you a packet that looks like this, and she may be referring to that as she speaks.
Well, you said it all.
Okay.
Thank you all for having me. So as Spencer said, I'm Kim Shaw. I'm the Executive Director of the Community Services Board. And as he said, we do provide the substance use, mental health, developmental disability, and prevention services to those 4 localities. Through those services, we provide the provision of those services is individual therapy, group therapy. We do medication assisted treatment, case management. We have day support programs for adults with both intellectual and developmental disabilities. And then we also have a day support program for adults with mental health challenges. We also provide 3 adult group homes for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I'm sorry, that's a mouthful and I say it all the time. We also, in 2023, I believe I reported out last year, we started providing peer services. And peer services are services that are provided by individuals with lived experience. Probably one of our most notable peer services is our veteran peer. And so that Hugh Ferguson oversees that program. Each month we do a veterans breakfast at the VFW. You don't have to be a member of the VFW to attend. And the VA has staff come. And so I think last week they did a vaccination clinic. So that was a big success. And then a couple of months ago, they did a dinner at Natural Bridge Hotel and had Mutts for Mission come with the service dogs. And I believe there was over 100 people in attendance for that event. So that was a really good event Unfortunately, I wasn't there, but I've had nothing but positive feedback about it. We also provide one of the things that, again, we're probably most noted for within the communities is our 24/7 emergency services. So 24/7, 365, we provide emergency services to our local communities. Within your packet, and you don't have to pull that out, but I did give you some highlights from fiscal year 2024, which ended June 30th. So for Rockbridge County alone, we served approximately 1,100 individuals, and that's about 60% of the individuals that we serve. We are on track to provide basically that same number of services this year thus far with that after our first quarter. Of those, we also provided 266 emergency services to Rockbridge County residents. And that could be any number of things from an ECO, individuals brought in by law enforcement, to crisis counseling. People could walk in and request crisis counseling. So that's a broad spectrum, and I don't necessarily have the breakdown of exactly what that entails. One of the things that I'm most proud of, and I've said this before, is our collaboration with our community partners throughout our catchment areas. We partner with schools, law enforcement, jails, DSS, the health department, hospice, state park, you name it, we'll partner. Like, we believe collaboration, not competition. We do a lot of referrals. We do have, unfortunately, that's later, but we do have wait list for services for individual therapy services. So if we're able to, if individuals have Medicaid, private insurance, we will refer them out if we're able, so that they don't have to sit on the wait list. We are not allowed to turn anyone away for the inability to pay for services. We serve everybody. We can turn people away for the refusal to pay, but not for inability to pay. So just to give you kind of a highlight, going back to highlight what we've done and what we've doing moving forward. We have, it's called School Intervention Specialist Program, and we provide that program at Maury River Middle School and at the high school. And it mimics what we call therapeutic day treatment. We also offer that program, except the SIS program is not a Medicaid billable service. We were actually approached by the school system, by Rockbridge County Schools, in 2021 when there was ARPA funding, and we worked with them to develop this program so that we don't, it is we don't have to go through the red tape with the SIS program. So we're able to provide services without worrying about barriers. It helps us to overcome those barriers. Unfortunately, that was time limited funding, and we knew that when we started the program. That funding ran out in May of 2024. We were very fortunate that we were awarded the first ever inaugural multi-year grant from the Community Health Foundation. So we were awarded that grant. That covers about 25% of our cost. And then the Rockbridge County School System also chipped in another 25%, which we were very grateful for. So we are covering about 50% of that cost. We have about 4 people currently that do that. And so they're serving anywhere from 30 to 40 children. And they see them typically on a daily basis. We also have therapeutic day treatment program. Now that's in the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school. And I'm pleased to announce that we were able to start that at Fairfield this year. They've been asking for that for several years, and we were able to actually get somebody hired. It's not for lack of want, it's for lack of being able to find staff to hire to provide the program. So we were able to do that this year. So that was really exciting. Let's see, some other things that we've done or that we are part of and looking forward to doing. I'm sure you've probably heard of the recovery court that is hopefully coming to our area. We've been part of those discussions. We're working closely with Mr. Elrod and with all the other community partners we will be providing the treatment piece of that program. So we are starting, it's called an intensive outpatient program. And I do not know all the ins and outs of it, but it is required for the recovery court. So we are going to be implementing that program. We'll be starting that program. We just submitted our license application for license last week. So hopefully that will come through. We are also now in Rockbridge County Schools with the Catch My Breath curriculum, and it is a curriculum about vaping and tobacco use. So they are providing that to all 5th and 7th graders throughout the county, which is really exciting for us. We've not been in Rockbridge County Schools previously. And also our RAISE program, which is an early intervention program. So birth to 3, we serve the spectrum. So from birth to death, we serve the whole spectrum. And they serve individuals, families, children with a developmental delay. It may or may not turn out to be a disability. They might be able to get some therapies and not have a disability. But that staff partnered with the county schools as well to do a child find project. So
A child what?
child find, so identifying children that are in need of those services, because once they leave us at age 3, they go to the school system to provide services. If they do have a developmental disability delay, they go to the school system to provide services. So they partnered to do, it's called Child Find. Another thing that was exciting for us this past Christmas was our Magnolia Players, which is our Magnolia Center is the adult program for intellectuals with individual and developmental disabilities. And they put out a Christmas program each year. They had not done that since 2019. So they were all super excited to be back on the stage. We invite the public to come. It's really a big deal. So if you see information about that this year, I don't know the exact dates, but I would encourage you to come. Again, it's 2 days, and they love to have people come watch them and cheer them on. So it's a big deal. Our prevention forums continue to be one of the things that our prevention team does really well. They draw in some big name individuals. Well, big name, I guess, if you're a fan of sports. This past year, we had Lauren Sisler. She's apparently an ESPN reporter. She did a great presentation. She was wonderful. But the prevention forum really is kind of geared toward parents and educators to help them understand what students are dealing with. And that's continued to grow each year. And our prevention team continues to provide community trainings. And they are always open. Well, not always. We do have some closed trainings, but our trainings are open to the public. They're free. They do mental health first aid for youth and adult. They do ACEs trainings. They do Revive trainings for Narcan. We partner with VDH. That's another one of our partners to be able to distribute the Narcan. So I'm not exaggerating when I say we have a lot going on. We do. We have a lot going on, but it's good. We're glad to be on the front lines and helping people and serving people. So staffing, again, does remain in certain areas one of our biggest challenges, but we are doing a lot of out of the box thinking. So hopefully at some point in time, I won't have to report that. It's more for our higher level like therapy that we have a hard time attracting those individuals. And of course, we're competing with there's 40 community service boards across the state for those that don't know. There's one in Allegheny, there's one in Valley. So we all are competing for the same staff. Sometimes it makes it a little challenging. But again, I appreciate you all supporting us. I appreciate you taking the time to let me come and give you a little bit of an update. I'm happy to try to answer any questions you might have. If I don't know the answer, I'll be glad to get back to you with it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, any questions?
If someone is seeking service, you mentioned earlier, what is the wait time? Because I've heard from some people in the community that they've contacted or tried to get services and it's months, maybe even year. I mean, it's seems too long for someone who is in need of service. So could you elaborate a little on that?
I'm happy to elaborate on that. So we have what's called, you might hear it called access, same day access, open access. They're different terms to describe the same service. Anybody can walk into our building Monday through Thursday from 11 to 2 and be seen. And if we can't see them that day, then they get an appointment to come back the next day for an assessment to determine what services they're in need of. And based upon the assessment, they are triaged. So if they are found to have immediate need for services, then we get it. And again, I'm not sure of all the criteria, so I'm not going to try to give you an incorrect answer. But there are criteria that move them up on the list. So if they're in immediate need of services, then we get them into services. The services that we have a wait list for are individual therapy. I know that's pretty much the only service that we have an extensive wait list for.
And what is a person who needs that? Because what I understand is that these people have contacted therapists and they're not able to get in their office either.
Right.
So they've come to community services or wherever trying to get help, and they're told, well, we can't see you either, or you need to go to a private practice. There are no openings at private practice. So what is a person supposed to do in that sense?
Right. And that is unfortunate. And we do see that. And I understand your concern. For us, this is not the answer you want to hear, but we are obviously doing the best that we can to get people in the door as quickly as we can. We have been moving toward more of a group model, which means depending upon what they're needing services for, then we could potentially get them into a group service, but it wouldn't necessarily be an individual service. I don't have a good answer for that other than we need more people in the field. The rate of individuals retiring from the field versus the rate of individuals entering the field does not equal. That people are leaving therapy and are retiring much quicker than younger people are entering. So that, again, that is one of the challenges. That's one of our challenging staffing areas. So right now we have 3 therapists, and then we have 1 substance use counselor. And then we have, obviously emergency services. So if somebody, again, is in need of, if they're in a crisis, we have emergency services. And they can also do some crisis counseling with them. But if someone is being placed on a wait list, it's because they've been triaged and determined that they are in, they can be put on a wait list, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Is this one of the positions that's open? So you don't have enough staff right now.
Correct.
So it's not that we don't fund it, that we would fund it. You don't have, or it would be funded, but how many positions are open and not filled in this, for this?
So we currently have 2 therapy positions open and 2 counselors, outpatient counselors.
That are not filled and would alleviate some of this.
Most certainly would alleviate some of it, but yes, they're not filled. And we've had the advertisements out. So it's not for lack of effort on our part. We've been advertising for 2 years. So during COVID, we lost a number of therapists who they're doing therapy from home. They do telehealth therapy, and they chose not to come back after the pandemic.
Please understand, my questions aren't to say you're not doing enough. I understand you're doing the best you can, but it's a need and a service that we don't have, that we need more, just like you're saying, we need more therapists. So, and not necessarily from a funding perspective or anything like that, but I would be interested in some point discussing with you how, because this is a need that our community has. So how can we up here assist you in trying to attract people to this area to provide the service?
Right. Yeah. I don't know the answer to that. I would love to have that conversation. If I had a straightforward answer, I would certainly give it to you. But I think there's more than just one factor at play. I think there's a lot of factors such as things that have been discussed in multiple different types of forums, infrastructure, childcare. So attracting like young families, sometimes that becomes a challenge. Again, housing. I think there's a lot of factors that are community factors that play into businesses such as mine or probably other local community businesses when they're trying to attract staff.
Is there any room for any telehealth? I mean, is that something that we can?
Again, that's one of the out of the box things that we're looking at.
Okay.
Trying to see if we can provide some telehealth services and what that would look like and which populations that service would serve. So yes, we have been looking at telehealth. That's definitely like I said, we've been looking at some, for us, out of the box solutions. I know there's a lot of people that do telehealth. We have up to this point, with the exception of COVID, been mostly in-person services. But yes, I would love to have that conversation about, open to any suggestions that anyone might have for how to alleviate that. Anything else? Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
I will note that we will be coming forward with a presentation, at least partially, to include the recovery court that we've been working on. Buena Vista Commonwealth Attorney Josh Elrod has been spearheading that, and there's been a very good group of highly interested and motivated individuals discussing that.
Mm-hmm. Good. Chief Ramsey?
Madam Chair, members of the board, good afternoon, or good evening, rather. Just bringing you a report or an update on the changes coming to us from in our emergency medical services as regard to medication exchanges from the hospital. As you all are aware, we were notified, or I notified you all via email back in February of this potential change. And it's gaining some traction throughout the Commonwealth, a lot of discussions coming about this. And Mr. Suter thought it'd be a good idea to publicly bring a report as to where we are and kind of what we're doing. Just to back up a little bit on the medication exchanges for many years, as long as I can remember, and years previous, even for me, volunteering, the hospital has always provided medication to the first aid crews or agencies that need that. Essentially, when an ambulance brings a patient to the hospital, and they have advanced life support provider on the ambulance that gives some sort of medication to a patient, there's a process at all of our hospitals in this Central Shenandoah EMS region participate in. We have a drug box. They're all the same, whether we go to Rockbridge Community or Augusta Health for our agencies here. Go through a process, take the old box in, you kind of verify what you did, what you used, and then someone in the ER looks at it, says, yes, that's correct. They sign off on it. We take a box out of the ER that's prepared by the pharmacy in the hospital. We put back on the ambulance and we go on back to the squad building or fire station, whatever the case may be, and wait for the next call. So with that, in 2013, as you can see in the report, the DEA, along with the Board of Pharmacy, had some regulations changes. They put some regulations in where that you have to be able to track medications from the place and date of manufacture all the way to they were either wasted based on expiration dates or given to a patient. And in our particular system, one of the few throughout the United States, it's very difficult to track the end of where that medication goes. And the reason being is because it's such a fluid system. So The medication can be tracked to our local hospital here, Rockbridge Community, at the pharmacy. They can package it in a drug box. And just as I said, the ambulance will take that drug box, swap it out, put it back on the ambulance. We'll just use our agency to the north, Fairfield, for example. We'll take a drug box from here. The next call that they run, that patient may be transported to Augusta Health. So then we may only use one medication out of that drug box that has a complete array of medications in it, including narcotics, things like that. And so then that drug box, that person may only use one medication out of that. It goes into Augusta Health, into their pharmacy to be restocked, and then back out to the ER. And then someone could come down from Rockingham, do the same thing. And that drug box could literally, the medication that started at Rockbridge Community could end up in Bath County, Rockingham Memorial, Augusta Health, just anywhere in our EMS region. So hence unable to track that waste, where it went to, that kinds of thing. So fast forward 10 years, we were notified at the beginning of the year that enforcement of being able to track medications will take place November the 27th, 2024. Being the fact that there's enforcement into this kind of drives the hospitals not to be allowed to, if they want to maintain compliance with the DEA and the Board of Pharmacy, which they have to do, because it's extremely controlled environment. They're no longer able to supply us with medications from the pre-hospital setting. So which in turn we have to figure out, or we had to figure out a way to do that internally. So initially we were looking at doing something countywide for all of our agencies. That's always kind of been my goal, is to make sure this doesn't hinder our agencies and put an extra burden on that. Much larger scale, being with the Regional EMS Council, as you all know, I'm appointed by you all to sit on that board, along with Augusta, Rockingham, Bath, and Highland, and then the cities in between there. Come up with a regional approach to where the council is going to manage the Pyxis machines. This is where it will be medication stored in a machine that will be tracked. We're going to put 3 in the region, 1 at our office, and then 1 at Augusta Health and 1 at a Rockingham County Fire Station. And what's going to happen there is that we'll be able to then track our medications within the region. The council is responsible for the DEA license. Individually, we had to apply for and seek what's called a controlled substance registration by the Board of Pharmacy. And simply that is, we have a room in our building that's video controlled, monitored 24 hours, and has a lock. Only certain folks are allowed in the building, or in that particular room, to get medications out. So partnering with the council, our folks can, again, same situation from Fairfield, can either exchange medications here locally or at Augusta Health. 50% of their transports roughly go to Augusta Health versus here. So that's how we're going to use to combat that. The plan and goal is to use EMS revenue recovery funds to fund this project. We're fortunate enough to have that type of funding to where we can supplement this and not cause too much of a problem there. It's going to cause estimated, again, we don't have any real data, real live data to go on. As we start the process, we'll be able to more accurately report on what the estimated cost is, but essentially we're going to only be charged by the council of the medications we use. We anticipate about $1,300 a month for that, and our buy-in is going to be about $16,000 annual. That goes to help the system maintenance, assist the council staff. There will be an employee that's paid for by the EMS council. So that will be our buy-in for that. And then the vehicle to deliver the drugs to the three stations there, or 3 areas. So we are set. We've got we've applied. Lieutenant Shane Watts has been hitting up the program. Went through, we set the room up. We've got about $6,000 in our room. that's ready to go. We've applied for and been inspected by the Board of Pharmacy for a controlled substance registration, which we have that. Again, the council is managing the DEA license for us to be able to house narcotics, things like that. So everything's in place and ready to go. Hopefully somewhere around November 1, we'll get the machine. And the goal is to be a couple of weeks ahead of the November 27th deadline, so that we can work out any kinks, any bugs in the system. But the goal is not to reduce any services, and to let everyone know that we're on track to continue services for our county agencies, and maintain continuity of the medications. The one point of note there, the council did, the board of directors for the council, there was an upfront cost to these machines, purchasing the machines, about $54,000 is in the report there, 54,047, and the council did have funds in their account for that, and the board of directors for the council voted to use that to minimize any major upfront cost to the locality. So the council did produce that amount as getting the project going. Waive any sign-on fees or anything for the agencies that are participating initially. As the system grows, if folks that chose to not be a part of this, there will be some cost factors as they want to join on to get started with that. And if folks want to join the program, like some large agencies, for example, Stanton Augusta Rescue Squad decided they could do it. It's much quicker for them to do it back at their station. Large volume agency with staff to handle that. So they're kind of doing their own thing, which is not a bad thing at all. But if they would decide to join down the road, it could potentially reduce costs for agents. More people in, the less cost it would be. But Rockingham, Augusta, and Rockbridge are the three main players and partners in this process. For us, I think it's a good thing because it will provide yet another set of eyes, someone that's third party, non-biased, keeping up with our medications and keeping track on ordering. It will reduce waste because we can look in the system, see if we have some drugs sitting in our room that are within a month or two of expiring. We can, as we switch things out, whomever the council staff member is can come down, move them to Augusta or Rockingham, a much busier place. As long as it's tracked, move them, and that way we don't have to waste them. We get much better large group purchasing pricing by doing it this way. So for us, as a locality, I feel it's best. This is the best way for us to move forward. Internally, Lieutenant Watts will be monitoring this and working with the council because we will be able to help stock our agencies, keep them stocked to, again, make sure there's no issues and impact on service.
Gentlemen, any questions?
There was some concern a year or so ago when I met with a couple of agencies that they were going to have to name a person to be responsible in that individual agency. Will this take the place of that and alleviate that responsibility at the individual agencies?
Somewhat, yes. But the individual agencies still have to, if they're choosing to store extra medications inside their building, they have to have what's called the CSR. In that application, just simply they have to have someone listed on there as the point person. So that's not that huge of a deal at this point because they don't have to do the DEA and be responsible. Well, we all have to be responsible for the narcotic Schedule II medications, but that all will fall under the EMS Council. So essentially, 50% of that problem was solved, but they would still have to, and the agencies are going through the process. If they haven't already, I know Glasgow has theirs, has their storage area set and ready to go. They've done a great job with that. But there is still someone on the application that has to be the point person for just as a contact if there was a question that come up, even for the EMS council, if there was an issue with something that come up, there was a question about a certain medication or a call or something like that, they would just have to have someone to call and ask that question. For the career side, Lieutenant Watts is that point person. And then each volunteer agency would have their person as well.
And what happens if that person who's on the application, for whatever reason, leaves the agency?
Then under it would be up to the agency to alert
Yeah,
the
but
Board of Pharmacy
I'm
for
just
that.
asking, is there, before they can appoint someone else or contact to let them know it's changed, is the service interrupted to the citizens?
No, sir.
Okay. So
Service
they're
would not
still
be-
able to access the.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Service wouldn't be interrupted for that.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you all.
Consideration of library funding request, Mr. Suter.
Yes. So I'll try to go through this as quickly as I can. In August, Rockbridge County Library Regional Library Executive Director Julie Goyette, who's with us tonight, approached the board with a request for additional funding in the current or FY25 fiscal year. And for background, this past winter, the library requested $678,273 from the county and $216,636 from the city of Lexington in their budget request for the current fiscal year FY25. And, we did the math on it, and that represented a 17% increase over the prior year's funding. And so ultimately, the Board of Supervisors approved a lesser amount of $644,336. And the city did likewise with $196,890, or respectively $33,397 less from the county and $19,746 less than requested from the city of Lexington. So a total of $53,683. The other partners in the library system, which are Buena Vista and Bath County, did fully fund the library's request last year. And so in that meeting in August, Ms. Goyette shared the steps the library would have to take to live within its budget, its approved budget. And those included reducing some hours in Lexington, Glasgow, and Goshen branches of the library system, and some reduction in mobile library services. You'll recall, of course, the board did not take action in August. And I subsequently met with Ms. Goyette. I requested a meeting with Mr. Goyette and Lexington City Manager Tom Carroll in an effort to better understand the reason for the shortfall and really look at the last year's budget request a little deeper. And we went over last year and this year's budget, very detailed manner, and your board report contains several of our key findings, and I'll just hit the highlights of those. Their request did represent what equated to a 10% increase in its overall spending levels since start of the COVID pandemic, and basically 5 years back. The library has drawn down on its financial reserves to minimize cuts in service over the past 5 years. Their endowment still contributes just over $69,000 annually in FY25, but to increase the endowment's annual supplement to the budget would continue to cut into its principal, its savings. And getting to the two primary issues, one of the biggest one was a budgeting error back in 2024, in fiscal year 2024. Early in the year, September, October, they discovered they budgeted about $70,000 less than was actually needed in their personnel line. And they determined to use reserves rather than come back to the localities at that time to request a budget amendment. And then when the FY25 budget request came in again this winter, there really wasn't any explanation for the increase in the request. And I take part of the responsibility there because I didn't ask enough questions, I don't think, on why is this budget so much higher this year. And Tom and I inquired, and there were no spot raises or anything, or they didn't add staff. And they also provided a 3% raise to staff in the current fiscal year. Thus, the salary line increase can mainly be attributed to last year's budgeting mistake. And the second primary issue involves health insurance. They're on the county's plan. They participate in that, and the plan is performing well. And it's greatly appreciated that the board and its partners opted to provide a much improved plan to staff. And so ultimately, some of their staff took advantage of that, and it actually resulted in an increased employer cost of $22,000 this year. And the election period is, of course, after the adoption of the budget, so they're not going to know who's going to take it until after the budget's adopted. So those are some of the key points. Mr. Carroll presented this information to Lexington City Council in September, and council subsequently determined to grant the requested $19,746 in additional funding to the library. My request to the board is to consider granting the $33,397 increase to the library in the current fiscal year, going from $644,223 to $678,278. And again, we are, I believe, very fiscally responsible as a county. And we try, when we set a budget, we try not to amend it. But in this case, it's my recommendation that we do it just based on the fact that this was a mistake.
Thank you very much for that very good and detailed report. Gentlemen, do you have any questions for Mr. Suter or Ms. Goyette? Any questions?
I will note that so it's not to repeat the mistake, that would automatically translate, if nothing else has changed, to the same additional request going into next year's budget.
Mm-hmm. Your motion?
Yes, ma'am. I move that we grant the request of $33,397 to the library.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Before I second it, I'd just like to say we wouldn't be in this situation if it wasn't for the error in last year's budget. And I would hope in future budget requests that we're a little more upfront in explaining a rather large increase. And with that, I'll second it.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Consideration of contract approval.
Yes, the county we had solicited requests for proposals for a firm to look at doing a capital improvement plan for the county courthouse and also this building. And as you're aware, we currently have 30,000 in our Fund 376 towards this effort. It's a very detailed request for proposals, and the CIP will be, if accepted, will be a very valuable report in helping the staff and the finance committee make recommendations to budget future maintenance needs and improvements to these buildings. I want to emphasize it is a phased approach. This first phase is only, even though the bid and the resolution is for all the phases, phase one is only budgeted currently. And if approved, we would make a request for a budget for phases 2 and 3 in the FY26 budget. 5 proposals were received. The evaluation committee narrowed it down to 3, and after conducting interviews, the evaluation committee recommends Thompson and Litton Incorporated. There's a resolution to that effect authorizing the county administrator to enter into an agreement with them.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison.
I would also add to that there's a cost share for the city of Lexington with this, and I have talked to Lexington City Manager Tom Carroll about that. And this is something that we probably should have been doing years and years ago, putting together a good solid CIP for the courthouse. And when we went out for this was the original intent was just to do the courthouse. But we discussed it and wanted to also have the option of going to look at the administration building, which clearly we need some upgrades here and there in the administration building. So that is optional, and we would go to the board, and we would only do that if requested, or if approved. But this at least gives us the opportunity to do that in the future, to have that option.
When we had county engineer on staff, didn't he take care of things like this?
He did. I mean, I wasn't here then, but looking back in the records, the county engineer did most of this type of work. He was the clerk of the works for the courthouse, and from all reports, did an absolutely outstanding job at it. And so yeah, they did a lot of extra work there.
Are there any other questions? A motion? A motion?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Day? Yes. And I vote yes.
Thank you.
Consideration of public transportation services proposals, Maury Express Advisory Committee. Mr. Suter.
Yes, the Mar Express is a community transportation service in Rockbridge County, in which we partner with the cities of Lexington and Buena Vista, as well as with the universities of W&L and VMI. The ridership fluctuates from time to time. It's a very valuable service for some citizens who have no other means of transportation. The original contract to operate the system was awarded to Radar, based in Roanoke, in 2011, and continued until 2017 when the contract expired. At that time, we re-procured the service, and it was put out for proposals again, and Radar was selected to continue the service for another contract term, and we are now at the end of that term, so we put it back out for proposals. As a reminder, the county is the contracting agency on behalf of the partners who I just mentioned. Each provides a representative, and collectively, we make up the Maury Express Advisory Board. State and federal funds fluctuate slightly from year to year, but are usually around 80% of the cost of the system. The remaining local costs are divided among the partners, with the county and the two cities sharing equally the 24.3% each, and then the remaining 13.5% each are paid by the two universities. In this one, we received two proposals, one from again from Radar, and the other one from Albemarle Limousine and Transportation Service LLC. Radar's response was deemed to be both responsive and responsible. Albemarle Limousines was technically lacking, and it did not include a document acknowledging an issued addendum, which the addendum was issued to their questions, but it was required to be in the response. However, the advisory committee decided to rate the proposal also, despite the omission, as it was otherwise responsive. So the committee met on October 9th, and the ranking on proposals and recommendation to the board is to we ranked Radar number 1, the incumbent, and Albemarle Limousine and Transportation Service second. I did attach a copy of Radar's base proposal in your board report. I didn't inundate you with all the required attachments and appendices, but they're certainly available. to the board or the general public if anybody would like to see them. And our request is to authorize me as the county administrator to coordinate with the advisory committee in negotiating an acceptable contract for subsequent recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. At this point, I'll note that in a lot of these cases, we've kind of gotten away from the three-step process when we bring you the RFP and ask you to put that out to bid, and then we bring you the ranking, and then we bring you a contract. In this case, since it's regional in nature, I want to go ahead and kind of stick more into that role.
All right. Gentlemen, any questions for Mr. Suter?
The equal share funding, the 24.3% is 24.3% of the 20%.
Correct. That's the 24.3% of the local share. Yes.
Move to approve.
Second?
This one.
Thank you, Mr. Day. Mr. Lyon.
Yes.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel.
Yeah.
And I vote yes. Consideration of electronic meeting participation policy. Mr. Dryden.
The Virginia Assembly passed a bill, and the Senate approved it and the governor approved it, which requires as of July 1st of this year, that if a public body desires to continue to allow for members to participate electronically, then they must have a policy in place, and that policy must be adopted annually. The Board of Supervisors did adopt a policy in August of 2022. However, that's been more than 12 months from now. So it's my recommendation that the board consider this amended policy, which is basically the exact same language of the previous policy, and to re-adopt it and restate it. And that will enable, my suggestion would also be that in your annual meeting every year, organizational meeting, that this be adopted then. But to enable the board to be able to have remote participation between now and that time, I suggest this resolution be adopted again by the board.
Mr. Dryden, I was reading it and realized that it didn't really say much about a vacation. If you're on, not that I would recommend that any of us from their vacation, their annual vacation, if they don't need to, but given that sometimes votes 2-2, there are times when people really, we need all five of us here. And I just wonder, is that a possibility? It doesn't seem like it is.
Well, no, it actually is. So if you look at 2D, 2D is personnel matters and personal matters. So personal matters would include that. So you actually have the greater of 2 times a year or 25% of your meetings. So if in that situation, if you're anywhere in the world and want to call in, if it's personal matters, as long as you haven't exceeded those numbers, then, and if the chair, you have to notify the chair and the chair has to accept it. And if those procedures are properly followed, then a person could call in and participate electronically and vote.
Why would the chair have to accept if they're
That's actually,
underneath?
no, that's actually the way it's the policy set in place. And that's actually how it comes out of the statute. The statute has that language. So.
All right.
You said that it was, majority of it was the same as what we had.
I just removed a few spaces where there's some spaces between the paragraphs.
Okay.
So it was nothing substantive at all.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, second. For a second?
Second.
All right. Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Day. Yes. Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Right. We will move on to our monthly staff reports. Are there any questions? Is there a motion to accept?
Move to accept.
Second.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Are there any board comments or committee updates? No? So the board will consider going into closed meeting as permitted by Virginia Code 2.2-3711A5, discussion pertaining to economic development concerning expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community. Mr. Lyons, is that when you read that form?
I think you just read it.
Yeah,
Is that all I need? Is that all we needed to read? I apologize. I
That's
didn't mean
okay.
to steal your thunder.
So you need a second?
Yes, you,
Okay, I move to approve.
okay, is there a second? Thank you. Mr. Lyons,
Yes.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel.
Yes.
And I vote yes.
And are we planning any action?
Um,
Okay.
Okay, for the general public, the board just went into closed session and actually came back out of closed session to remake the motion properly.
I move that the Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors convene in a closed session to discuss the following as permitted by Virginia Code 2.2-3711A5. Discussion pertaining to economic development concerning expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. Day. Mr. McDaniel.
Yes.
And I vote yes. We're now in
All right, I move that the board certify in the closed meeting just concluded, to the best of each member's knowledge, nothing was heard, discussed, or considered except the matter or matters specifically identified in the motion to convene in closed session and lawfully permitted to be so discussed as exempt from open meeting requirements under the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act cited in the motion. Any member of the public board who believes that there was a departure from the requirements of 1 and 2 above shall state prior to the vote indicating the substance of the departure, that in his judgment that it has taken place, the statement shall be recorded in the minutes of the public body, Virginia Code 2.2-3712.
Is there a second? Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Eve,
Nothing else, Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
that was
Second.
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Perfect. Thank you all.